Welcome to this latest video from RG. Today we're discussing the Agricultural Transition Plan and specifically the UK's transition from the Common Agricultural Policy. Joining me is Helen Pennock, RG's Business and Assurance Services Partner, and Amanda Whitworth, Accounts and Outsourced Services Manager. Helen, turning to you first, obviously the transition plan is one of the most significant changes to the agricultural sector for a generation, and it's been triggered by the UK leaving the European Union. So what's the purpose and the aim of this new plan?
Yeah, so Jamie, the overall aim of the Agricultural Transition Plan is to improve the environment, animal health and welfare, and reduce carbon emissions. Funding cuts from basic payment scheme will be recycled into productivity grant schemes and pilots for new schemes, which are due to start this year.
So Amanda, then what changes have been made to previous schemes?
Yeah, so the basic payment scheme payments are going to be gradually reduced starting this year, with at least 50% cut by 2024. Reductions beyond 2024 are not currently set out, but by 2027, that'll be the final year of the basic payment scheme payments. Additionally, simplified countryside stewardship schemes are now available, and future changes to forestry and woodland grants are due to be released early this year.
So with these changes to payments and stuff, going more general, Helen, what does this policy and this transition plan, what does it, and these changes, what do they mean to farmers? How will it improve the agricultural sector?
Well, for many farmers, the most significant change to them will be the cuts in the basic payment scheme and what they can do and what new schemes are going to be put in place to help them replace that income. In terms of the basic payment scheme, the payments themselves are being phased out over the next 7 years. The final payment will be in 2027, and there will be progressive cuts up until that point, with higher cuts for the larger recipients. In 2022, 23 and 24, for example, there'll be additional flat rate cuts for all applicants of 15% each year. DEFRA plans to gradually introduce the Sustainable Farming Incentive from 2022, which will be easy to access and available to all basic payment scheme applicants who can deliver that required actions. This will compensate for some of the loss of the basic payment scheme income, but it certainly won't replace it all. So the farmers and land managers will have the ability to sign up to the options that best suit their business. There are several options which we'll discuss later.
So seeing as that they're getting a reduction in some of the payments they're getting, which could impact them quite significantly, Amanda, what support is available through the plan alongside what Helen was talking about that might actually compensate the farmers?
Yeah, so there's going to be 3 levels of support, which are aimed at paying for sustainable farming practices, creating habitats for nature recovery, and making landscape scale change in the form of new woodlands and other ecosystem services. Some options will be universally open to all farmers and land managers, but others are just going to be targeted at a small number of large projects. In addition to those grants, there's also going to be support available to help farmers reduce their costs and improve their profitability, to help those who wish to retire or potentially leave the industry, and to create new opportunities and support for new entrants coming into the industry.
And within the transition plan, are there any other sort of schemes that are going to be piloted and introduced over the next 4 years, Amanda, that farmers should be looking out for?
Yeah, so the main scheme is the Environmental Land Management Scheme. It's currently known as ELMS for short, so people definitely would have heard of that little phrase. And that's going to be gradually introduced through pilots and tests from this year through to 2024. There are 3 main elements to that scheme. The first, as Helen mentioned before, is the Sustainable Farming Incentive Scheme. So that's going to reward farmers for actions taken to manage land in an environmentally sustainable way. So that's going to be gradually introduced in 2022 and run to 2024 when it will be available in full. The second one is the Local Nature Recovery Scheme. So that scheme will pay for actions that support local nature recovery and deliver local environmental priorities. And it's also going to encourage farmers to work together to improve their local environment. And the final part of ELMS is the Landscape Recovery Scheme. So that scheme is going to support the delivery of landscape and ecosystem recovery, any land use projects and projects to restore wilder landscapes, large-scale tree planting and peatland restoration projects.
Thanks. Obviously quite a few different options coming in there. Helen, obviously this transition plan came in from 1st of January when we left the European Union. It's still fairly new, so there will be some farmers and landowners that haven't got to grips with it completely yet. So what should they be doing now?
Obviously, losing basic payment scheme income will result in a need to review the profitability of the farm. So that could involve making changes to reduce the cost of production, becoming more efficient, and potentially investigate new markets. In the short term, the new simplified countryside stewardship scheme, which are now open, could provide some additional income and be more attractive than the previous schemes. But given the environmental focus on elms, the countryside stewardship scheme could also be a useful stepping stone for those who've not been involved in agricultural environmental schemes before, or those who wish to change existing schemes. A large proportion of our clients, for example, have already had some diversification within their business, and it's likely that this is going to play a much more important part of their overall business plan for the future. We're having so many conversations with our clients at the moment regarding the changes that are coming in, diversification options and what it will mean for them. And if anybody listening to this needs any further advice or assistance, please do get in touch with one of RG's agricultural team.
Helen, Amanda, thank you.